We get a run in the morning around 8:30 to Penn Station for an EMS call. So we go to Penn Station, and I'm waiting at the taxi ramp, and where we always park, and the guys go into Penn Station looking for the victim. All of a sudden, over the radio, I hear the chief from downtown calling up Pfeiffer, saying he has a confirmed plane into the World Trade Center. So right away, I call the officer on the radio, and I tell him that we have a confirmed plane into the World Trade Center. So they came back, within minutes. Ambulance showed up to take care of the patient. They come right back to the rig. So they make it a second alarm automatically, and it's a third alarm, and we're on our way back to the firehouse, which is only a block away. We get to the firehouse, we back into the building, and now the guys are watching it on TV. Now it becomes a fifth alarm, and this is only minutes later. Engine one goes. So now we get the ticket to go to the box. And now it's, I'm not sure the exact time, whatever time it was, a little before 9 or 9 o'clock exactly, we get transmitted to go. So the one guy, Kirk, he says, "You want to drive, or you want me to drive?" So I was already driving, I was still in the rig, so I said, "No, I'll drive," because I was getting off that morning. I was supposed to go home, but I was waiting for a detail to come to the firehouse. So Kirk should have been driving that day, but since I was already driving the night, he said, I drove. So we get down to the Trade Center. Everybody gets off the rig, and I don't even remember the ride down there. All I know is I got there fast. I mean, there was traffic, but we weaved in and out, and the cops had side roads blocked, and we got there so fast that it was pretty amazing how fast we got there. So we parked the rig, and I get as close as I can get, which is, it was, a lot of rigs are in the way. Everybody gets off, I get dressed, I get my gear, and I go in and see now the guys are ahead of me, they're already in the building by the time I get there. So I catch up with the officer and the men in Tower 1's lobby, I'm sorry, and I tell, he sees me, so he says, "I don't want you in the building," he says to me. This is Lieutenant Desperito. He says, "Go outside and help somebody get water, or get water yourself," meaning help somebody hook up to the building and pump water into the building, or if I can find a hand rig with my rig, to do it myself. So I tell him, okay. So as I look out the door, the windows of the Trade Center, I see 65 engine. He's right in the middle of the highway, and he's in the process of hooking up to a hydrant. So I make my way over to him. Now, I have no recollection of anything in the lobby. I mean, they said that there was bodies around, there was debris everywhere. I don't remember any of that. I mean, I was like, whatever, I didn't focus on any of that. All I did know that you could hear thump, crash. That was just, people jumping, hitting all over the place. So you had to watch, when you couldn't just go out the door, you had to stop and wait till it was clear and then go. So I went across the street to the chauffeur, and I knew him, but I didn't know his name. We run in with him a lot, but I just didn't know his name. So we hook up to the hydrant, we charge the line, and now we're looking at the building. And it's a direct shot right across the street to where the connection on the standpipe is for the building. And it is impossible to hook up there. There's debris falling off the building, there's still people jumping off the building, and it's right in our path where we got to go. So I said to him, we can't go over there and hook up. We'll get killed going over there. Something will fall on us. So he looks around, and he notices a hydrant right on the corner of Liberty and West Street. So we pack everything back on the rig, and we take his rig, we drive it over around to, now we're in front of the hotel on Liberty and West. And he noses the rig in, we hook up to the hydrant, and we stretch a line down the sidewalk to that same standpipe, and he hooks up, I hook it up to the rig, and now the rig is pumping water, and we're just sitting there watching what's going on. And like I say, debris is constantly falling down. You have to watch because stuff is coming down. You have to watch every second. And to the side of us is a parking lot, pretty big parking lot. It's full of cars, packed. And there's cars on fire from debris, I guess, when the plane hit. Stuff came down, and now these cars are on fire. And it's just right across the road from where we are. You know, just a road's width away from us. So we decide, well, let's try to, we'll try to put these car fires out because we're going to be here all day. Well, we figured we'd be there all day, all night, and who knows when you'd get this fire out. Never in a million years I thought that the building was coming down. So we hook up a line we didn't even hook it up to the rig, we went right to the hydrant because there was another hydrant right opposite of it. So we had one length of hose, hooked it up, and I was trying to put this van fire out. Couldn't put it out. Just for some reason, it wouldn't go out. And the whole time I'm looking up at the building on top of me because now this is Tower 2, the South Tower, and stuff is falling down, light stuff, but it's falling everywhere, everything, all around us. And so after a few minutes, I said, forget it. We'll just keep an eye on it, and if it gets really bad, then we'll worry about it later because it was just too dangerous to be in that position with your back to the building. Shut everything off, and now as we stop doing that, a police officer comes to the door of the hotel lobby, and he yells to us, "Let me know when it's cleared to let people out." So I got in the middle of the street, and the other fella is halfway between me and the cop. And I'm looking, I can get a better view from where I was. So I tell the other guy, clear. So the cop sends people out of the building, but it wasn't that many people, maybe 20 people. And a person comes out in a wheelchair, a person comes out in a stretcher, and then they bring these people over to the south pedestrian walkway. And there's a few ambulances parked under the walkway. And now these people are whoever had to be taken care of is getting taken care of by those ambulances. So we did that, and now a few more EMS people come up. So we relinquished the street to them. They were taking care of the people. So we said, let them evacuate. They can direct people out of the hotel. Going back to when I came out of the building and I hooked up with the chauffeur 65 engine. The rig is right there, 65 engine. And as far as you could look to your left and as far as you could look to your right, there were nothing but body parts. I mean, everywhere. And they were just. There wasn't, hardly any space in between parts. I mean, it was just everywhere. And before we decided not to hook up to that standpipe in front of the building, an engine pulls up right where the standpipe was. And we're still thinking about what we're going to do. As that rig pulls up, all of a sudden, a person lands on top of the rig. You hear a big thud. So that's when we said, we can't hook up over there. We're going to get hit. That was our main deciding factor, is not to hook up there when that person fell on top of the rig, right in front of where we had to go. So we went back to the rig, and this is when this other fella shows up, the guy Kevin Shea from 35 Truck. He comes out of nowhere, and he says, you want to try to put these fires out? So I said, well, we tried already, we couldn't do it. I said, the three of us will try. So we try to put them out. We stretched the line on the one side of the staircase of the pedestrian walkway on the north side, and we couldn't get a good shot at the van. So we wanted to come around to the back side and shoot between the two back windows of the van. So we bring the hose line on the south side of the walkway, right next to the staircase, behind the staircase actually. And the guy Kevin is on the nozzle. I'm backing him up on a hose, and the other guy, who I cannot think of his name, it's from 65 engine, he's standing watch. So I'm constantly looking up at this building because stuff, like I say, is just falling everywhere. And we were operating maybe 5 minutes. I don't, with the hose line, I don't know if it was much more than that, if it was 5 minutes. I looked up one time, and the building's just coming down. So I yelled to the two guys to run. Now, this time, I don't know that it's the whole building. I just think, a large piece of debris is coming down, So I yelled to them to run. I turn, and I'm running south up the West Side Avenue. Because it's not the highway, that's just West Side Avenue. So I'm running south. I didn't get very far, and the force of the air coming down with the building coming down, first I remember was my arms went out like Superman, my helmet went flying off, and once my helmet went off, I said, I'm in trouble, because now something's going to hit me in the head. And stuff is pounding me in the back, like somebody's punching you in the back. It's just the dust and everything coming down, but it's coming down from 1,000 feet up. So it's like somebody beating you. So now as it gets stronger, I go into a tumble, and I'm just tumbling head over heels, rolling. And it's not black yet, but it's dark. And I said to myself that I'm not dying like this. I know I said that. And I just get tumbled, and I'm going sideways. And before it got dark, the last thing I remember, at least I think I remember, is I'm hitting the center divider on the highway, and I get pushed up and over it onto the other. I could see, the last thing I saw was the white of the divider. Got hit to it, rolled right up onto the other side, and thrown onto the other end. And as this is happening, why, I don't know, but either I yelled it or I heard it, my daughter's name. It's the only thing I remember. You know, people say your life goes before your eyes. Well, one thing I heard was my daughter's name, Jesselyn. And now I don't know if I got knocked out. I don't know how much time passed. But I'm on the other side, and I'm laying flat on the ground. And when I realize it, you know, I'm not even breathing anymore because it's pitch black, as dark could ever be. And I think I stopped breathing, just was holding my breath. And I'm laying there. You can't hear a sound. You can't see anything. I didn't feel any pain. Didn't feel anything. So I said to myself, well, I must be dead. And so I'm laying there, and the first thing I thought of was, there's no light. You know, where's the light? Everybody says when you die, you see this bright light. Well, there's no light. So I'm saying, there's no light. Something's wrong. So then, within seconds, all of a sudden, you know, you can hear, you could feel stuff, and I could taste. You know, you're coughing up, and you know now that you're not dead. You know, you're sitting there hurt. And the whole time in my mind, I'm thinking that I got to be buried under rubble because it was like a freight train right on my back. The steel just crumbling and everything else happening so loud that I thought I had to definitely be buried. You know, stuff had to be on top of me. So my first instinct was to reach up and out, and I reached around, and I didn't feel anything. So I felt better. So, well, if I am buried, at least I got room. I'm not, you know, in a tight spot. So now my knee, my back, you know, my whole body is hurting. You know, hurting. I can feel the pain coming back. So I go to get up, and I can't even stand up because of my leg. So I'm just laying there, and dust is starting to settle. I have no idea what the time frame is, but I know dust is starting to come down. And in front of me, a few feet, maybe 10, 15 feet away, I see headlights. And then I can start to see the outline of an ambulance. And so now I still think I'm buried. So I'm saying, well, I feel much better. Now, there's an ambulance in here. You know, it must be a big void. You know, at least there's a radio in the ambulance, something I can get to contact somebody. But I still can't move. And as time goes by, dust settles a little more, I look the other way, and I can see another ambulance, maybe 25 feet away from me, facing the other direction. I could see the outline of it. You couldn't make out what it was, but you knew it was an ambulance. So I'm sitting there, and in the distance, which I believe, I don't even know, I think it was from the south coming at me, southwest coming towards me. I see some guys coming with flashlights, firemen, and they're yelling, anybody here, anybody here? So I yell to them, they come over to me, and you know, you're right. I said, yeah, I'm good, I'm all right. And that made me feel a little better too, knowing that there was other people around. So now they leave, and within a minute or less, I hear a guy yelling from in front of the van, the ambulance, that he's trapped, you know, help me, help. So now, at this moment, I try to stand up, so I get up on the one leg, and I can't move, I can't walk from where I am to the ambulance because there's so much debris in the way. So I got as far as I could, and you know, I couldn't lift my leg up. So I get over to as far as I can, and then I just sat on the pile of debris, and I started yelling for help. So out of the distance, and in front of the van's on fire. There's a fire now. An EMS guy comes over with a fire extinguisher, and it's still you can't breathe, and you can't really see too well, so dusty. The guy's got a dry chemical extinguisher, and he's going to put the dry chemical on this fire. So I yelled to him, don't do that. I said, the guy can't breathe now. I said, the dry chemical, forget it. So he just pulled the debris away and away from the ambulance. At the same time, the 3 or 4 firemen that passed me earlier came back, and I told him that there's a guy caught under the ambulance. I can't, I can't get him. Luckily, the four of them, the one EMS guy and the fireman, were able to drag whatever was in front of the ambulance away, and the guy got up and he just walked away. I don't know where he went after that. He just walked into the dust. Getting back to the part when I was laying there in the pitch black darkness after the tower had collapsed and I got thrown to the ground. A fellow from 7 Truck was also a volunteer in Freeport with me. I've known him since he was a kid. His name is Richard Muldowney. And we had an ongoing thing for years in the fire department in the city. He was in 7 Truck on the east side, and I'm in 1 Engine, which is on the west side, almost directly across. He's on 29th Street between 2nd and 3rd, and we're on 31st Street between 6th and 7th. So almost directly across. So in a lot of runs, a lot of boxes, we run in together. If it's in the middle, we go to the east side, they come over to the west side sometimes, but a lot of times we run in together. So in order to know if he was working or if I was working, we'd get on the radio, on the handy-talkie, and we would just say, boy. And if he was working, he would say, hey, boy, back. Or if he called first, I would say, hey, boy, back. And it was just the way that we knew that each other were working that night. So this is going on. This went back for years and years, even before he was in the fire department and myself. Back when we were volleys in Freeport. This whole boy thing started way back then. And it just continued on. Every time we saw each other, we called each other boy. So while I was laying in on the ground before anything, I got any sense of where I was or what have you, I hear the word, hey boy. Now it's nothing I can hear or see, but I hear hey boy. Now I have no idea that Richie's working that day. I don't even know that 7 Truck is there. I mean, assume, but I didn't thought of it. I didn't think of it that way. And come out to find out later, of course, that he didn't make it that day. He was working. And is there something I just thought in my mind, or was he really talking to me that day? So I'm sitting there and I'm saying, what am I going to do? I can't do anything. I can't walk. I can't. And then out of nowhere, I'm covered from head to toe with dust. And more people are coming around. And then out of nowhere, 2 guys from my firehouse show up. They were in the hotel lobby when the building came down. Their whole company, they got out, and somehow they walked all the way, they went around the way they came out, and we just met eyes. And it was Tyrone Johnson and Jimmy Grillo from Ladder 24. So they come over to me, and the three of them, 2 of them, helped me get up, and they said, we got to get over by the water to get away from the buildings. All right, so Jimmy's got a broken nose, his arm is all messed up. So they helped me get over and away. So now, when you got a bad leg and somebody's dragging you or helping you walk, and they're pulling you too soon, too fast, and they're killing me. My leg is just hurt so bad that I just forget it. Let me do it on my own. I'll just take it easy. So now we're walking away, and just as we get in front of the North Tower, and now it's clear, now you can get good visibility, and you can see that the other tower's already down, and so we just get in front of that, but we're in front of it, but on the other side of the highway, far enough away from it. And myself and Tyrone, we hear the pancaking of the boom, boom, boom. We turn around, and we see that building coming down. So now I went from not being able to walk to running. So the 3 of us start running out of the way. Again, the dust cloud, the air, and everything the dust starts pelting you. We didn't fall down, but it was enough to knock you down and choke you. And this time I was able to put my head in my coat to breathe. So in the distance, I could see that there were stairs, and then you went down to the water's edge, and there was a concrete wall that went along the waterway. So I just started to walk. I said, whatever going to happen is going to happen. I couldn't run anymore. So I'm just taking one step at a time, and I found the staircase. It's only a couple of steps. I walked down the stairs, I get to the concrete wall. I knew I had to go north. So I turned to the north, and I just started walking out until I came out of the dust cloud. So now I can see Jimmy, he's already out of the dust cloud pretty much, and he's near the edge, the water's edge. So I almost get to him, and I turn, and there's Tyrone's not behind me, and I'm just looking at. I didn't want to go back into it to go back to just didn't want to go back into it. I said, well, I can't leave him. I got to go back. So I take like 2 steps, and by the time I took 2 steps, because I wasn't moving too quick, I could see a shadow coming at me, and thankfully it was Tyrone. He didn't see the stairs. He fell down the stairs. So by the time he got up and got ourselves together. So the 3 of us walked north out of the dust cloud, and that is boats and everything taking people from New York to Jersey. And I now, once I get, your adrenaline stops and everything else, I couldn't walk at all. My leg was just, I couldn't even take a baby step. It was just so bad. So they're telling me, well, get on a boat and they'll take you to Jersey, to the hospital. Well, I didn't want to go to Jersey because, I didn't know where the rest of my company was. I didn't know where. We knew that the guys in the truck were right because they were on the radio with them. But the engine guys, none of them, engine 1 guys, none of them were answering the radios. So they convinced me finally to get on a boat. So I got on the boat and they brought me to Jersey City Medical Center. They had a big triage area set up on the Jersey side. And they wheeled me off on a stretcher. They put me on a park bench, and then everybody left me. I'm there all by myself. There's nobody, taking care of me, no nothing. Finally, a couple of guys come over, they take my blood pressure and everything else, and then they leave. And I'm just sitting there by myself. And a woman came by, and she wanted to know if there was anybody I wanted her to call for me. And I gave her my wife's number at work, and she finally, eventually, in the course of the day, she was able to get through to her to tell her that I was all right. And so eventually, they put me in an ambulance, and they brought me to Jersey City Medical Center. And they were mobbed. It was just mass confusion over there. They had so many people they evacuated to Jersey because they figured that New York would be overrun. Meanwhile, it was the other way around. Jersey was overran, and New York had hardly anybody. So I went to so they checked me out, and took X-rays, stitched up my leg where it was torn open. And then they put us in a room, just cops, firemen, and EMS people. Separate, no windows, so we couldn't see anything. So we're sitting all up there, I'm covered from head to toe, I'm filthy. And eventually they were letting guys go take showers, get cleaned up. And everybody kept asking me if I wanted to go take a shower, and I just didn't feel like doing anything at the time. I just wanted to sit there. And I kept saying, no, I'm all right. So I'm watching these other fellas taking showers. They were dirty, but, there was nothing really that bad, some of them. And finally, I go and take a shower. I'm talking like hours later. I finally go. So I walk past the mirror in the bathroom, and I'm, so much dust on my hair and my face, black soot all over me. And I said, I guess that's why they wanted me to take a shower. I'm so dirty. So I just had stitches in my leg, and they say, you're not supposed to get your stitches wet. Well, how are you going to take a shower if you don't get your stitches wet? So I used a bottle of shampoo and a bar of soap, finally got most of the dirt off me, and came back. They rebandaged my leg, and that got infected after a few days. And then I asked the nurse, or not even the nurse, one of the caseworkers there. There was a bunch of women there, getting us whatever we needed. They were very nice. I asked her. I said, is there any way we can find out who's in the hospital? Other guys from our company, so we know, if they're here or not. So she said, well, she would go downstairs and make a list. They had a bunch of blackboards in the triage area, and it had your name and your medical condition on it, and so she goes, I'll go find out. So she comes back with a bunch of papers, and there's names all over it. Some are firemen, some are civilians, some are cops. It could be anybody. So finally, I see a name of my lieutenant who's on it. Actually, that lieutenant was working in the truck that day. He's Lieutenant Engine 1, but he was working in 24 truck as a lieutenant. So I see Blake McLaughlin. So I asked the nurse, I said, does this mean that they're here and fine, or does this just mean that they've been brought here, they could be deceased? And she didn't know. She says, I don't know. They're just on the board. Sorry. It's like 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, here comes Blake walking into the room, which I was glad to see because now I had somebody with me. A few minutes later, I was pretty shaken up, and when Blake got there, I said, I wish I could talk to Father Mike, if I could Father Mike a judge, because he was the priest in a church across the street from us, St. Francis of Assisi, and he's also the fire department chaplain. And he was, really good guy, and we all knew him in the firehouse very well. So I didn't know it at the time, so he tells me, he says, "Oh, you don't know?" I said, "What?" He said, "Father Mike didn't make it." And that, really took me for a loop. Finally, they brought us back to New York in a bus that they got from New Jersey, and they dropped us off at different firehouses, and then we had to get a ride back to our firehouse. And then a few friends of mine, Bill Shamari and Rick Holdner, they drove in, and about, I'm not even sure what time it was, 10 o'clock at night or something like that, maybe a little earlier. And they were able to get into the city, and then they drove me home because I couldn't drive. And somehow, I ended up somewhere in this area, but that's where the trees were. So that was the last thing I remember seeing, was getting pushed into that and into the trees and onto the other side. See like this here, this area, yeah, where these trees, this pushes up. It could have been this was what I got knocked into. I don't really know. Maybe this is where there were trees. Because I don't know if I could have been that far when that building came down. I mean, it happened pretty fast. So we made it down here. And I think it was just as we got to this point where this door entrance was that we heard it coming down. See those stairs? That's the stairs I went down. That building over there, that's 7 World Trade. They're rebuilding that one. That building collapsed also, but it collapsed because of the fire, not because of the towers falling on it. This was all the parking lot where cars were parked. There were cars on fire back here in the front, and where the walkway is, we were right at the base of the walkway, actually, on the north side of it. That's where the rig was, and that's where we started putting the fires out. And then we ended up coming back onto this side because too much debris was falling down. So we figured we'd have the walkway to protect us. Just as we were at the base of the walkway, where the stairs are, we were putting out this one fire, only for about 5 minutes. And that's when the buildings all came down. Injuries were, that was another thing when I was in the hospital. Their big thing was, they said, "Well, did you black out?" I said, "I don't know. How would I know if I blacked out?" So I think if I would have stayed in New York, I would have got better care. I don't really think I got too good a care over in Jersey. I think I definitely should have stayed the night. I mean, they sent me home, it was like, it was like getting hit by a car with, the injuries, I got, they didn't really know if I had any kind of internal injuries or anything. They were so overwhelmed, I can't really blame them. They just had, limited staff and so many people to take care of. So, but I just think if I was in New York, St. Vincent's or one of the other big hospitals, that I would have been to my betterment. Because the next day when I woke up, first that day I had a big lump on one side of my head, on the right side, and the next day I had about 100 lumps on my head from getting hit in the head. So I'm sure I should have stayed overnight for observation at least. And so my injuries were, I was basically hurt from head to toe. Every part of my body was injured. My big injuries were my shoulder, my left shoulder, which is, I need a shoulder replacement. The doctor says there's nothing they can do for it. The joint is messed up. And my left knee was the one that I had casted. I had it operated on. I had, the whole knee was torn apart. ACL, the PCL, cartilage, all cartilage damage. I had a broken, a crack in the tibia. I got a crushed bone in the tibia, the top of the tibia. My right side, they got torn ACL. I have torn meniscus, and I had the left side was repaired. They repaired the ACL, and the PCL while I was in the cast for the month, that went back, the bone was split, and the bone healed itself, and so that was all right. The medial meniscus, not the medial meniscus, the medial collateral ligament, they thought they would have to reattach that, thought it was stretched, but while being in a cast for a month, that shrank back on its own, so that was all right. So I had that operation, the ACL reconstruction, and it's over with, but I'm in constant pain every day. It's just something you have to live with. You know, doctors need knee replacement, and until I do that, I'm just in pain, 24/7. I just have to watch what I do. You know, if I got to kneel down, you got to think about it before you just go actually do it. You know, you just can't just kneel down. You got to, oh, which knee am I going to kneel with, my left one or my right one? And then I went in for an operation on my right knee, and the doctor said that he wouldn't do it. He said he wouldn't replace the ACL just because you have too much damage to that knee, and replacing the ACL will just make the knee tighter, and you'll be in more pain. He says you need 2 knee replacements. And so I need 2 knee replacements and a shoulder replacement. But he recommended, he didn't advise, he advised me to hold off on everything, to, you're too young to do it right now. And he advised about the shoulder replacement to really hold off on that, because once you get a shoulder replacement, you're really limited to what you can do. And my son doesn't show it much now. I think, I don't know if it doesn't affect him or he's just able to hide it more. And my daughter, seems like it really affected her. She was, at the time, she was 11, or was she 10? I have a problem with her age. I always forget her age. And she had a problem with it. She still has a problem. Whenever I go into the city, different functions, I go back to the firehouse or whatever, she had a problem with me going back into the city. And yeah, she took it hard. I'm sure both of them did. And also my wife, coming so close to losing me, and again, the other wives in the firehouse, different functions, and you see them, and then it all takes a toll on them, even though I'm still here, but it still bothers them. In the beginning, I don't know if they were nightmares so much where, nightmare would scare you. These were just a lot of dreams. I mean, and it was basically it was one dream that I had over and over, that I was in a staircase, and the staircase, they weren't the way the staircases are in the trade center. They were like a long hallway, and then another stair going up. It wasn't, a really long hallway. So I'm standing on the landing in the staircase, and the whole building is collapsing in front of me, and coming down like a chute almost. Everything the staircase is just collapsing one on top of the other, and then you just see civilians and firemen just going past you as everything's collapsing. But I'm standing there on an area that's fine. I had that dream quite a few times, and then just constantly on your mind. Every day, you're always one way or another. You wake up thinking about it, or you go to sleep thinking about it, or you do both. And it still happens to this day that something will happen, and it's basically on your mind 24/7. Not to the part where you can't function, but it is. You're always thinking about it, about the guys. So many guys that were lost that day, and so many of them that you knew. A lot of times you say, "Oh yeah, I know that guy. Hey, how you doing?" There was a lot of guys that you knew by face, by name, that you actually had, you talked to. Guys from my firehouse. We had 4 guys from my firehouse alone that were, good friends. It was Captain Brethel of Ladder 24, Steve Belson from 24 Truck, who was working as an aide that day for Oriole Palmer, and actually, Captain Brethel drove Father Michael Judge down there that day to the scene. He got off that morning. And then Mike Weinberg from Engine 1, who came from home. Of course, his sister worked in the trade center, so he went down there to see what, make sure she was all right. He ended up with Captain Brethel. They were found together after the aftermath. And then the other guy was Lieutenant Desperito, Andy Desperito from Engine 1. All the guys from Engine 1 made it out. He didn't. He was with a fellow from the Port Authority. He was right behind everybody, and he was also involved with, I believe, the guys from Ladder 6 who were trying to help that woman out, Josephine. All the guys, because they were all together at one time on the staircase helping her down, and then they got split up. And the fella that he was with from the Port Authority is fine, and he was right next to him, and he didn't make it. So, like I say, those kind of things, you'll always remember those things.